Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. I'm Chris with M7 Metalworks. This is my Oliver 550, 1963. I believe for the most part, maybe there might be a few pieces that I haven't painted, but I think I've got everything painted. Hey Buck. And so now I'm ready to put this thing back together. So let's get started. We're just going to start putting on the things that we took off last, which would be these items here: my distributor, my oil filter, and then my tachometer here. Normally I like to take the tape off, relatively soon after I'm done painting. But in this case, I really didn't want to mess with stuff. And so I just kind of left it. And it seems to be going okay. The thing you get into sometimes when you leave the tape on is the tape with the paint on it, sometimes it'll take some of the paint with it that are around the edges. So mine doesn't seem to be doing that. Seems to be tearing off pretty easily. So just shooting a little bit of oil on the cam. This is the same oil I have in the engine. I'm just going to take just a tiny bit, and all I'm doing is just smearing a small film right on there. So when I took this out, I put a mark on here and here. You see the two keys at the bottom of this, the bottom of the distributor here. So those two keys, one on each side. Show you the bottom. So those line up. This is on the outside. So I just knew that when I took it off. So I'm going to realign those. Now you might be thinking, okay, well, wait a minute. What if he turned this? It's still out of timing. Well, I'm going to show you. So all I need to do is, actually, before I do that, let me throw just a little bit of gear oil on this as well. Again, gear oil just because it's a little more viscous, that's all. You could do some engine lube, assembly lube, the same thing. No issues there. Okay, so let's get that down in there. Okay. All right, so we've got the distributor put in. So now what I want to show you, I can't get that. So can you see those keys? The key on this side here, and then the other one is on the other side. But it's not quite in the slot yet, okay? So all we have to do, we're just gonna lift up a little bit and let her settle right down in that. Now you may be thinking, okay, but what if he turned that? Your timing's still off. Well, I made a little punch mark right here, and then I made a corresponding punch mark on my distributor. So you see that punch mark right there at the tip of my finger. I know the focus isn't particularly grand. So we line those two up, and now our timing is, I would say, near perfect at that point because we're lined up perfectly. So now I don't have to retime the motor and get all fussy with that. The motor was already in time. And so that's a way you can take your distributor out and have everything kind of still the way it should be. That's not to chip up the paint on these bowls, but man, that's part of it. You're gonna chip things up. Rag. Now we're just going, again, assembly lube is just as good. I don't have any, so maybe it's better. I've got a little bit of Right Stuff on there that I just wiped on. So that'll help keep us where we need to be. There we go. Gotta get that thing square to go in there real good. We're gonna snug her up. I ought to change the date on this. I've got a date of 6/21 or 6/30/21, and the reality of it is I only ran it for 1 minute. At that time, so although I do have 0 hours written on this, and that's what my tachometer will read. All right, I'll probably grab a wrench and snug that up just a little bit more than that. Let's see what we look like here. All right, I'm gonna throw just a little bit of lube inside that, and we'll button that up. We've got our filter on, so I think now let's put our plugs in. I've got just some cotton shirt that I use just to protect the threads a little bit from getting a bunch of paint and everything in there. And I think also what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw just a little bit of transmission fluid, not a bunch, but just a little squirt into the cylinders, just to lube everything up. Remember, it's February right now, and it's been June since we started this thing. I've got a mixture, probably about 50-50 of transmission fluid and Marvel Mystery Oil. And I've just mixed that up, and you can see it there. I've got a 10cc syringe. I'm just filling her up, and I'll shoot her in there. And each one of these will get at least 10 cc's. Probably just a bit over 10 cc's. I'm going to full capacity here. Now, we don't need these in right now, but we're putting them in because we also don't need the cylinders open to the air. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and the firing order is 1, 2, 4, 3. So that means number 1 pops in there. Pops in there. 3, it goes into the 3 firing order, but it goes to the number 4 cylinder. 4, or the 4th in firing order. It's there. Distributor cap. Through the coil. It's there. If I recall, it mounts over here. That's for the wire loom. And I'm pretty sure that is where it went. And then the wire loom comes through and goes through that and behind the distributor. This and my gas cap are the only 2 things that have been primed but not painted that I know of. And so I think what I'll do is I'll put this on, and I'll come back and I'll just paint that, and then I'll put my little rubber grommet in there that will kind of protect the edges of the wire loom. And give me just a little better access. Get that thing snugged up. I don't want that slipping around on me. There we go. All right. Let me put just a little bit of dielectric grease in that. So I've cleaned that oil sending unit up. I did that months ago when I pulled it out, I'm sure. So looks to be in really good condition. And it just gets screwed right into the side here. That's getting pretty snug. I do not want to risk snapping that off. I've got some scuffs here, scuffs on the bolt. I didn't even paint. You can tell that pipe was hanging upside down. I'm sure I hung it from a wire from the little hole down here. And of course, you know, I didn't get the bottom of that very good. Again, these aren't too big a deal because I'll come back through with some touch-up paint and I'm gonna hit all these things. And this paint, this industrial enamel paint, it actually does pretty good brushing it on, believe it or not. So it flows out so well that you end up not being able to tell it was a brush was used. So works pretty good. All right, so I think the next thing, guys, that we'll do is just to keep this ball rolling. I think let's put the tie rods in and get these hooked up to the steering box. This is the original tie rod tube, and I did a pretty darn good job of painting it because I struggled to tell which one of these was the used one, the original, and which one was the brand new one. So I really did a pretty good job, if I do say so myself. Get that in there. There we go. All right. So this here, I've got to mark a little dot, just like I did on the distributor. I've got a little dot right here and a little dot on this that I can line up. And that way my steering is exactly, my alignment is exactly the way it was when I took it off the track. Now I'll just snug these up. These also need snugged up and those need snugged up. I'll put a wrench on those. I'll snug them up, and then these are castle nuts. So I'll put a cotter pin in each one of these as well. The next thing we'll get here is going to be the linkage for the governor and for the carburetor. All right. So this goes in the lower. This is all a bit difficult to juggle. Well, it wasn't easy, but we finally got that bolt started. Whew. Man, it just goes to show you that some of the stuff that is supposed to be easy can go super, super tough. These are really long, but that's perfectly fine. We'll clip them off. Snip that. And we'll just snip that. All right. We'll just snip that bottom one. It looks to me like my old, or the old positioning of this is right there. 1/4 inch, snug that up. That'll rip that nicely. There we go. And got a washer. That. Takes a tiny little bending the end of the cotter pin. Or I'll put the other one aside, even though it's in good shape still. you recall in an earlier episode, I rebuilt this starter. Try to get this in here without scratching everything up. Oh, come on. There's this little nut on the carburetor. There we go. This is for the wire loom that comes through that, so it does bolt on right there. All right, we're just sitting up in my that goes. That. We're going to use some, it's called Surgy Lube, but it's just water-based jelly is all it is, water-based lubricant. KY is another name for it. You get it in any hardware or pharmacy store, but it's really handy for these types of applications because it's water-based, and so I can put it on, and within a few hours it evaporates. Okay, let's try the top one first. Maybe that's the route to take here. Yeah, I think maybe that might be the route to take. This bottom one's definitely the bigger trick. There we go. Try to get it on the bottom as best I can anyway. Okay, now it's looking more promising. There we go. It's not bad once you get a few things to go your way. All right, let me get this snugged up before we do a final thing, because this air cleaner is going to get sucked into this a little bit. All right, that's snug, and that's snug. We'll snug this up. That lubricant, that KY jelly lubricant, allows this thing to move also where it needs to move without putting undue stress on the thing. All right, let's go ahead and put our heat shield on. There's a chance I could have to take this off at some point in the future because I did not put a bend on the lip of this, and that could end up biting me. That little lip may interfere with my sheet metal. Could. I don't know that it will, but it might. So I'm gonna find out. Did I grab the wrong one? That thing went through the hole a minute ago, yeah. Am I just not lining up? I think that's my issue. Not lining up. Yeah, I can screw that one in, no problem. This one here is just a smidge off, and the issue looks like a fairly easy one to fix. Okay, I went ahead and slotted that hole, and that will allow me to move it up and down however I need. So the way this is going to work is it should allow me to tilt that up just a bit and maybe pull that off of the pull that off the manifold up here. It's just touching a tiny little section of it. Again, I may have to take this whole thing off. If this lip right here comes into contact with my hood, I'll have to take it off and I'll have to put that in the big vise and try to bend that flange down. It's supposed to be bent down. When I fabricated this piece, I did not bend that down. I didn't see a need for it at the time. I hadn't really thought much about hitting the sheet metal. Alrighty, I did use anti-seize on all of those bolts as well. So now we got our, it's me, Buck. See, it's me. See, harder than it seems like it should have been. Alright, let me get a rubber mallet. Got the exhaust tightened up here. I think we're good there. Let's go ahead and connect the stay rods. A little awkward just because they're large and they're heavy. So let's get this out of the way for a minute. Essentially, just stick that on there. Try to do this with as little damage to my paint as I can. Okay. Once that's in, you don't have to worry so much about this thing moving on you, or going down to the ground, I should say. It'll move on you, but on something like this, I like to use marine grease because obviously this is access. It's going to be outside, and rain and everything else, and all the elements, and that marine grease will stay on it a little bit better than maybe some other greases, or at least that's the hope. Your threads going. Yeah. Unfortunately, this is probably going to be a lengthy video. I don't like doing long videos. I just don't think people watch them. So, we will see. Alrighty. That's good. Let's get to the other side, and I'll just rinse and repeat. Well, guys, that was a pretty productive day. You can see we got a bunch of stuff on this side of the engine mounted. We got the stay rods put in place, the tie rods put in place. Didn't get the power steering pump and the alternator on there. And yes, I am putting an alternator on. But we've gotten a lot of other things done. On the other side of the tractor, we got the carburetor, the air cleaner, the muffler, the heat shield, the starter. All of those things are on and everything's ready to go. I've lubed and put oil where oil needs to be and lube where lube needs to be. Of course, got the stay rods and the tie rod on this end done as well. That's a big part of being able to get the power steering lines and everything on this, back on this tractor, is getting those stay rods put on there. Plus, I like to get my tires and rims and all that put back on as well. Get this thing sitting on its own shoes, its own feet. And we might get that far tomorrow, I don't know. I did get the choke cable installed as well. And so I can't put my battery plate down just yet because I've got to put my electrical in, and my harness runs underneath that. So I'll wait just a little bit on that until I get a little further along on some of these other areas. And but anyways, that's I think that'll be the end of this video, guys. I appreciate you watching. I know this is probably going to be a long video. It's either going to be a long video or I'm going to break it into two. It's going to be one or the other. I don't know which. So looking forward to finishing this 1963 Oliver 550. So hope you come along for the ride. I'm Chris with M7 Metalworks. Thanks for watching.